when it looked to me in the book that one of the great salvations for you was horses.
Yes.
And that you found a horse that you loved, and your father had given you,
My stepfather
had given you $500, and so you were able to buy this nag and turn it into this fabulous horse, and you started riding, and that really turned your life around in a way.
Yes. I don't know where it came from. I apologize to anybody out there who has a child with this affliction. You have no idea what you're in for. I can hear your bank account crying from here. I was just born horse crazy. No one in my family rode. I just didn't play with Barbies. I played with horses. And so when I was 11, I finally got to ride, and I got this horse. And there's a reason why horses are such a great form of therapy for people with disabilities or veterans or physical disabilities, because if you get on a horse and you're free and it's a living thing that you connect with. And so riding a horse gave me power and confidence and freedom, but it's not like a machine, because the one thing that a horse also is a friend. And they're warm and cuddly and, all that stuff. And then I actually went on to compete and do well. So it teaches you hard work and responsibility and all those things you want for your kid. And it was just really awesome. And my favorite thing about horses is it's the only sport in the Olympics where men and women compete equally.
And you have several horses now, don't you?
Yes, I have 8.
And you do dressage, you do jumping, you do all kinds of...
I do 3-day eventing, and for those who don't know what that is, the best way to explain it is a triathlon. So you do dressage the first day, cross country the second, and then show jumping the third, and your score is cumulative. And if you mess up on one, you don't continue.
But you were trying to make money to feed your horse.
Yeah.
And
that could have actually been the title of the book. I did it all for the horses.
When a friend invited you to come to a strip club and then asked you to get up on the stage, and you stripped for the first time and made some money, and you realized you could pay for your horse's food more easily by stripping than
work smart, not hard, people.
Yeah. So what was it about stripping? Weren't you that first day, were you a little shy? Were you a little embarrassed to get up there and take your clothes off? How did you feel about that?
Fine. I was okay. For a lot of people who start out dancing, they say that the scariest part is the actual dancing part, or being on stage. Just being up there is terrifying. But I had already danced with the Baton Rouge Ballet Company and performed in the Nutcracker and was on my high school dance, not a dance team because we didn't have sports, but they called it the dance ensemble. And so I was used to dancing and being on stage. I just wasn't used to doing it without a bra.
So you didn't have any qualms about that at all?
Not really.
Did you? It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you get into porn?
I was dancing, and the club that I worked at had guest stars, which is exactly what I'm doing tonight. Somebody comes in and does a show, and these girls did these, great performances and didn't have to hustle. I found out they got paid up front, and they got to wear these beautiful costumes, and I was like, I'm way better at this than they are. Mm-hmm. So I talked to some of those girls, and they hooked me up with some photographers who shot me for a bunch of magazines. And a couple years later, a friend of mine was going to LA and just asked me to go with her. And the pay difference between girls who do just like magazine layouts and adult movies is huge. And I was already a fan of porn and comfortable with who I am, and so I just basically said, "Fuck it, sign me up."
But it does seem a little bit of a leap for most people to go from stripping to porn, and I don't know. I've watched Stormy's porn, and it's really good. She knows what she's doing. She's very good. Did you enjoy it from the beginning?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie and be like, "Oh my God, it's so awesome." It's just like any other job. You got to show up at 8:00 in the morning. When you live in LA, that means you got to get up at 6 because traffic, and you have to go even on days you don't want. Some days are great. You have this really hot chick or this really hot guy, and you're feeling beautiful and you're into it, and the chemistry's good. And other days you're like, ugh, I'm on my period. My face is broken out. I don't want to.
So then you began to direct.
Yes.
And you, it turned out, were really good at it. And you were
I'm
writing
fucking
script.
awesome.
You were writing. And you were writing scripts and you were directing movies, and suddenly you were like one of the hottest, I put those in quotes, hottest directors
I'll take it.
of adult films, and you were winning awards. And it was about that time that you met Donald Trump. Here we go.
Yes.
We're getting to Donald Trump.
Yeah. Everybody just woke up.
So you want to talk about how you met him and how that went?
I was under contract with Wicked Pictures, and they sponsored a hole, pun intended, at a golf tournament, a celebrity charity event in Lake Tahoe. Trust me, it's not lost on me. And he just came through like every other celebrity. They stopped at the hole, except ours had 4 holes because there was 3 of us. And we give them water, take pictures with them, invite them to the gift room, whatever. And he just passed through. I didn't even think anything really of it. And then when he came back through that, later that day to the gift room for, all the schmoozing that they have to do, I didn't even really notice anything except after we took pictures and he said his hellos or whatnot. His bodyguard came back and asked if I would be interested in having dinner with him. And
Dinner.
yes.
So
I was promised food,
but
which I still haven't gotten.
So you went up to his hotel room thinking that you were going to go to a restaurant.
Right.
And he greeted you, and what was he wearing?
Silk pajamas.
Black silk pajamas, yeah.
Yeah.
So he wasn't president of the United States, but he was Donald Trump.
Right.
And you told him
To go put some fucking clothes on. And then I told him to mail Hugh Hefner his pajamas back.
So he goes and he sort of sheepishly goes off and changes his clothes and comes back and sits down. And then you start talking for about 3 hours. And he takes out this magazine that has his picture on the cover. And
That was about 10 minutes in.
Yeah. And what did you do?
I'd finally had enough. Still want to know where my dinner is. And was basically, does this work for you usually? And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not interested in this. Like, where's my snacks? But I was like, someone should spank you with that. And it wasn't a sexual thing. That's what everybody gets wrong, is they think it was like part of the foreplay or like some sort of dominatrix thing. And although that's way more entertaining, that's not what happened. It was, he was just like, you wouldn't. And I called him on it. And then there was that moment where he handed it to me and I was like, oh, fuck, I have to spank this guy now because I'm not backing down. And so I did. And really from that moment on, he was fairly normal. So we all know what we need to do.
So you went into the bathroom and you came out and he was lying on the bed in his underwear. And you realized
he was doing his best Burt Reynolds impression, yes. But with socks.
So he had socks on?
Yeah.
Oh, no. And so did you knew what was going to happen?
Yeah.
So you've said, I've watched a number of interviews and people said, why did you actually end up having sex with him? Because you've said in your book, I can't believe that, I only wish that if I were going to be famous for having sex with somebody, it would be with somebody, one of the hot guys I'd had sex with instead of him. But so you kind of just did it, but you didn't really know why you were doing it?
I have no idea. And I've been asked this question so many times, and I've been like, well, I should just make up a cool answer, but I got nothing.
Tell us how this came about, how the story got out, and how you ended up taking the $130,000 from Trump, from Michael Cohen.
This is going to take a lot more than 10 minutes.
No, well,
Buy the book, people. I had forgotten about it and didn't tell him, and then someone had leaked the story a long time before, and I'm fairly sure that it was a girl that I was friends with and my ex. And I was called and told about it, and everybody thinks I tried to sell it, but my daughter was only a couple weeks old, and not to be like really graphic, but anyone who's here and has given birth knows that that's not when you want to be photographed, and you're, I would have done it. I would have waited at least a few weeks till I could put my pants back on. And it just kind of all hit, they called me and said, well, we're going to run with the story no matter what. And I said no. And they're like, we're moving forward. We have evidence, which I don't know what that was. They're looking back. They're probably just trying to spook me. And they said, well, you can either take control of it and tell it your way, or we'll write whatever we want. And so I was like, oh, shit, okay. And so I did it and took the lie detector test and passed. And he was still just,
but they
TV
never
guy.
ran the story.
But then they never ran the story, and that's when I was threatened all at the same time. And I was like super relieved because then it wasn't coming out. So I skated it again.
But when you were threatened, this is when you're in the parking lot and this guy comes up and said, wouldn't it be sad if something happened to your little girl's mother? Right. So Trump must have found out that the story had leaked by that time.
I know that he knew because they called him for his side of the story. Oh, so he absolutely knew. Okay. But I have, I'm not going to speculate whether he hired someone or not.
Was that when Michael Cohen came to you and
no, it was years later.
So years later. So you were relieved that the story went away, and then all of a sudden, years later, Michael Cohen comes to you when Donald Trump is running for president and says, here's $130,000, and you were. It wasn't because you wanted to be paid off. It was because you wanted the story.
Right.
To
it was
go
the
away.
best thing that ever happened to me was that they were gonna, and people think that I blackmailed the president. If I was gonna blackmail him, I would have gotten a lot more than $130,000. Added zero to that. I'm a businesswoman. That's insulting. And keep in mind, I didn't even get $130,000 because the lawyers took most of it. Yeah. And I would have negotiated for something much better. Plus, if I blackmailed them, I'd be in jail. That's illegal. It doesn't even make sense. They offered that amount and I didn't even counter offer. I was like, where do I sign so that my husband doesn't find out about this?
But then he did find out.
But it was, it got leaked. So anyway.
You didn't get the money.
No, I got the money.
You got the.
I absolutely got the money.
I'm sorry.
It was not for another year that it was told again.
When the story came out that Michael Cohen had done this, when was it that you decided that you were going to come out because Trump had not signed the full?
That actually didn't. I didn't even care about it. In my opinion, I was pissed because they broke the NDA. Mm-hmm. The NDA was very explicit that from this day forward, whatever the exact date was that it was signed, neither party can contact the other one directly or indirectly or their families, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. And then they came to me and asked me to sign another statement. And I was, like I say all the time, I was fine with saying nothing, but they kept asking me to lie. And the first one was kind of a soft statement. And so I signed it, the second one was they were more aggressive and I'd said no twice and they showed up. That's when I signed my signature wrong. And then they just kept on. And then the next thing I know, Michael Cohen is shopping a book saying in the thing that he was trying to pitch, oh, and I'll tell you about the Stormy Daniels agreement where I paid her $130,000. I'm like, great. So now not only do I look like a whore, I look like a cheap whore. No. And I just didn't want to... I just wanted to be able to defend myself because they broke the agreement 5 times before I said anything.
And that's when you got Michael Avenatti on the case. And then you went on 60 Minutes and told your story.
Right. And I did 60 Minutes. I was, at this point, everybody was knocking down my door. It was insane. I was being offered so much money to tell my story. And I chose to do 60 Minutes for free so that people would know I wasn't doing it for the money and I wasn't a gold digger or whatever. And Anderson Cooper interviewed me extensively for 3 hours and went back and forth, lots of fact checking. And obviously I was telling the truth, but I was so upset that it was cut down to 14 minutes and everything that I wanted to say got cut out. Because everybody knows what happened, but I wanted everybody to know how and why it was coming out once again, so I could defend myself. And it was just edited down because that's what TV people do. So then I decided to write the book.
And so you wrote the book, and then you had recently a problem with Michael Avenatti, which I gather has been resolved, where you said that when you sued the president for defamation of character, and lost. You said that Michael Avenatti had done that without
Right.
your
I was very
knowledge.
adamant that I didn't care. Like, he was like, he called you a con job. And I was like, I get called so much worse. So many times a day. That's really not that big of a deal to me. Let's focus on this NDA thing and going after Keith Davidson, who was supposed to be my representation against, in the NDA, and they were conspiring behind my back. And I was like, this guy totally screwed me over. And I want out of the NDA because at this point they're still trying to sue me for $20 million.
Well, now, do you owe Donald Trump money because you lost the case?
Somebody with Google can probably tell me right now because they're in court right now.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen there?
I don't know.
And so Michael Cohen set up this fund to raise money for legal fees, and then
Michael Avenatti.
I mean, sorry, Michael Avenatti, and you. So many Michaels. You said earlier that you didn't know he was doing this, and you didn't.
No,
know
I knew about the first one, the second, obviously, and I was, I just started having people ask me like, where the money went. Was it going to be used to pay Trump? Was there money left over? And I feel like people who gave me money deserve to know where it went, because it's so kind and generous of all these people to like do this for me. And I just didn't, I'm not a thief, and I just wanted to be able to answer these people. So I kept asking for accounting and I couldn't get it. The money, he was supposed to, he pays these, the security is paid out of that. And it just became difficult to get some monies. And I asked over and over. And then I find out on Twitter that there is now a second GoFundMe, and I hate finding shit out on Twitter. So I called him out on it.
And so, but you've made up, and
well, he sent me the accounting, and it looks good. But it, sometimes people just need a swift kick in the ass.
I just want to ask you one more question, and it's about Donald Trump, and it's about ethics and values and morals. I mean, Donald Trump.
How do you even put those in the same sentence?
I'm about to.
Did that hurt?
No. That is exactly what my point is that Rudy Giuliani talked about how you were not an ethical person or a moral person or something. And I look at you and I see all the way through your book that you are ethical in everything that you do. And you tell the truth. And
to a fault.
From a business standpoint, you're ethical. And you compare you to the people surrounding Donald Trump. I mean, like, let's say Paul Manafort. Or Michael Cohen, or some of the others.
You're going to make somebody else famous. Be careful.
And you may be in an interesting way one of the most powerful people in the world, because you are the only person that I can think of that Donald Trump is afraid of. I mean, Donald Trump. Why do you think he doesn't tweet about you? I mean,
he tweeted.
No, but
he regretted it. Because I'm way better at it than he is.
There's nothing. No, there's no name he can call you. There's nothing he can say to you that will hurt you.
No,
nothing. And you can hurt him. And so you've got this enormous power over him. And you are in some way, in some inverse way, you have turned ethics and values and morals around upside down in this country, so that you're looking at this group of people in administration where those words don't have any meaning, and you, Stormy Daniels, the porn star, are the one who is the ethical person who has the values.
How fucked up is that, yo?
So just tell me, how do you feel about Trump, and how do you feel about your role in all of this? What do you think your role is? How do you feel about the power that you have right now?
Very conflicted. I really just, I've said this, and I really just did this to save my own ass. Because someone called me a liar, and I'm a lot of things, but I am not a liar. And it just really, honestly, I just did it because I was pissed off and wanted to set the record straight, and they were getting away with breaking this contract and doing whatever they wanted, and it just wasn't fair. And no one believed me, one, because I have a vagina, and two, because it's a friendly vagina and everyone's seen it. And so that means that that I obviously must be a liar because I work in porn. And that was just so frustrating, and I just see that happen over and over to these people that I work with, and I was just basically was like, fuck it. And now this has become so much bigger and unexpected that people are calling me, crazy things like a hero. And I'm like, I don't remember a burning building, but okay. and it's really hard to carry all of that and feel responsible for it. But I guess I'm really not responsible for anybody but myself. I don't know. I just do what I do, I guess.
Stormy, thank you so much.